Calling Berkeley, California. Berkeley? Berkeley, California? Hey, July 10th, Jimi Hendrix at Berkeley's out. Did you know that?
That was a famous thing on film from years ago. Is there a second Blakely?
Okay, he did 2 concerts.
Okay.
The original film didn't have 3 songs, Voodoo Child from the Gig. So I guess now they have reestablished all the footage. You know how it was in the old days. You don't want to pay for extra reels of tape, right? So to go to all the movie houses, so they cut the films down. You know that better than I do. But they restored the whole thing, and the second disc is a CD audio of the second show.
Wonderful.
Now that means that when they move from Universal Music to Sony, so Sony has this stuff that the releases on Uni didn't have. So when they move to Warner Brothers next time in 10 years, they'll give you the second DVD. You know what they're doing? They're holding all this stuff back because the guy's not around anymore making records. You know what I think, Buzz, and I really mean this, the Hendrix estate should have put out Electric Lady Dream, your new album.
I know.
Well, they have their own label. Did you know that, Dagger Records?
No.
Dagger Records was putting out local artists for a while. They might get into, or maybe they are into, Hendrix-related material.
You talk about up in Seattle?
Yeah. But one of the fellows, the A&R guys right here in Newton, Massachusetts, the other fellow, the second part of it's Eddie Kramer.
Right.
And the third part of it's Jimi Hendrix in Seattle. So you got John in Boston, Eddie in New York, and Janie in Seattle. Now, the engineer and co-producer of Buzzy Linhart is music, of the music album, Eddie Kramer.
Right. Very important.
Now, I'm holding in my hand, and the audience is looking at, this marvelous psychedelic Buzzy Linhart is music. It's a double CD, probably not.
The original album was called Music, and a lot of people didn't realize that it was me, and the record company was a little upset that the group couldn't agree upon any name aside from Music. The real big reason being that I had already had an album that sold 25 or 30,000 albums, so we'd like to take advantage of that. But the drummer was insistent that nobody's name should be any bigger than anyone else's. So
wow.
Lost some. So after the group broke up, partly from acting that way, and most of them are all gone, bless them. Except Dougie Rodriguez, the little genius guitar player who was 22 at the time this record was cut, and left music to ride motocross. Was a star there, but he had toured with Mitch Ryder for a couple of years when he was 18 and 19 and 20, and he was in the Seventh Sons with me when he was 16.
All right, so for our audience, the Seventh Sons was a very famous underground band Buzzy was in. Is music came after the Seventh Sons?
Oh yes. Seventh Sons first. Then I went to London, opening the show. Dougie and John, the drummer from the music album, John Siomas, came. I was opening for 10 years after, or B.B. King. I don't remember which night. At Steve Paul's club, and the younger guys brought Mitch Ryder to see me because he needed somebody to open the show for him, and the idea was that whoever did that could use the rhythm section without the horns and without the organ, and that was fine with me. And we opened for him at a thing in Texas as a rehearsal, and then we flew straight to Lisbon, Portugal, where we played at a $3.5 million party, which was actually worth something at that time, thrown by the Goldbergs. Goldbergs threw it for the King and Queen of Portugal. And who was there? Gino Lollobrigida and Henry Ford II and Francisco Franco. Anyhow, it was pretty classy.
And the band was called Buzzy Linhart on Music at that time.
Yes, and we hopped on we were asked to stay over a few days and play for the daughter of the King and Queen's daughter was having her coming out party, and she said that Mitch Ryder was her favorite band, and they asked us to do that, and we said, we can't do that because we have to be in London. We're the headlining band for the opening of the Beatles' new club, The Revolution. So we got on the plane. The first plane had to turn back. We felt bad. We got on the second plane, landed in London, and there was no work permits for 13 people on the crew and band and Mitch and everybody. So they told us that we could go into the country, we could perform, but we couldn't get paid for it. And so the gig opening the Beatles' new club was canceled. One of the drastic things that I have seen happen near my career.
And you upset the King and the Queen as well.
Yes.
Off with their heads. Do you think that maybe the King and Queen ratted you out to the work permit people?
No, actually a very interesting thing, Joe Vig. It still exists to this day. At some point in the early days of the 1900s, there was an agreement reached between the musicians' union in the United States and the musicians' union in Great Britain, and the agreement was that if 30 people came over from the U.S. to play in Great Britain, then we had to let 30 people go from there over to here. That's why it was like being a basketball player back then. You could make your fortune if you were somebody who could play an instrument, and of course, Brits are known for robust voices. So look at who we got. Oh my God, Roger Daltrey and Eric Burden and on, right? And they all got to come over because we wanted to trade acts back and forth.
Whoa.
But you had to do it months ahead of time, and somehow the agency, one of the biggest agencies in the world, had forgotten to line up the papers that would allow us to trade 13 musicians. It was awful. We were supposed to do 22 gigs across the British countryside. We would have come back from there kings, and 4 gigs in Germany, and then we were going to appear on whatever the big TV station was TV company in Germany was at that time. And instead, we were heading back to the States with our tails between our legs, but Lou Reisner, a great British/American/British
Sure.
producer, bought John Lennon's Rolls Royce, actually. He signed me up and put me together. This is 1968, guys. There was Olympics that year, and I remember sitting in a hotel room. Do you know how much they gave me for 5 years, 5 albums, an album a year for 5 years, Joe?
No.
What they advanced me?
No.
$1,500.
For all 5 albums?
Oh, my lawyer made the worst mess of my career by doing that. Yes, he's passed away, so I can say it. Ouch.
People make choices for us, and we rely on them and their wisdom, and you really need to have second, third, fourth opinions, don't you?
You must. You really must.